Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to start with cloud. This video is going to divide into multiple parts. The first part is about my background and how I started with cloud. So if you are not interested in that, you can skip that. The second part is where I will start talking about that if you are starting with cloud, how you can start. And the last part, I'm going to talk about the resources and the certification part. Okay, so let's start. So a little bit background about myself and why people were asking me to make this video, because I am actually transitioning towards cloud. So I have 14 years of experience. Throughout my career, I work as a front-end developer. So JavaScript is my primary skill. Few years back, I wanted to upskill myself and someone suggested me to explore cloud. I went ahead and I started with Azure. So the first thing I did was open Azure website and I felt lost. Now why lost? Because there are so many things are there. The website is very overwhelming, especially as a front-end developer if you are coming. There's so many things are going on, so many terminology, so many services that I was like, I'm totally lost. But then what I did is, the person who suggested me to explore cloud, she is actually working in Microsoft. So I thought, let me give it a try. And if I will stuck somewhere, I will take her help. So again, what I did was, the good thing is all the cloud providers. Now, how many cloud providers are there? I will talk about that in the second part. So what I did is I opened their documentation. They were having the learning path and they have the basic certification for Cloud Foundation in Azure. I started doing that. Every day for an hour I used to study and I used to prepare for the certification. After a month I gave the exam and I got cleared, but I was missing a lot of things. I was not confident. I didn't did much of the hands-on, so I was like, I was not happy. Meanwhile, at my workplace, I got a project where I was supposed to do the deployment of that project on cloud. I was not having a dedicated cloud team. So at that time, my manager was very great. I actually told him that I wanted to explore cloud, but the thing is, I have no idea. He actually connected with me few folks in the company who were cloud expert. So they actually gave me their time and they helped me to understand that how like I was having a project. I was having actually two projects. So one was a Node.js application and another was a React.js application. The React.js application was supposed to be deployed on the cloud, and the Node.js application was having some form submission and some dynamic data API calling and all. So those people actually helped me to design that whole application, that how the deployment on the cloud will be, how many resources I have to take and all that. They actually gave me around their 2 to 4 hours, and that was a kickstart for me. The thing was, they were working in AWS, and since then I started working in on AWS. The reason was because I got myself very comfortable in AWS. So this is how I started. Now where I am standing right now. Right now, I have already one certificate from Azure, one certificate from AWS. I'm also working on my second certificate of architect. And what I am doing is I do a lot of my side projects for AWS as well as at my workplace. I also explore the cloud part, like deployment. If you are giving interviews right now, you must know that they are looking for the full stack engineers and you should know all this part. So this is what I am doing. Now, the first question is, does it matter that you should do Azure, AWS or GCP? I would say no. Even if you are starting your cloud journey right now, or you are basically you are a fresher in IT industry, it doesn't matter. Even if you have experience like me, either you are senior, junior, whatever level, you can pick any Azure, AWS, GCP. Now, why I'm saying this? The reason is, all the fundamentals remain the same, only the terminology change. So for example, what is lambda function in AWS, in Azure those would be just function, in GCP they would be known as something else, but they will remain the same. So if you are a developer who is gonna work on any design and you already know Azure, it doesn't mean that your knowledge is not gonna helpful in AWS. It doesn't matter. So now how you are gonna decide that you should go for AWS, Azure or GCP? The way I decided, I would suggest you that only, that if you have someone near in your network of any of these technologies, you can pick that. If you don't have any, that is also fine. That is also absolutely fine. It will depend upon you how you want to start. Then it would be your personal decision. Now, talking about the jobs, it is not like that there's only AWS job or GCP or Azure. All jobs are there. So don't even try to think that no, AWS jobs are more than Azure or GCP. It's not like that. In short, pick any cloud and just go ahead. Do not waste your time in selecting any, like, let me go with Azure, let me go with GCP. Again, I will give you my example. I started with Azure, but then I decided to stick to AWS. In my last few companies, they were not even using AWS, but because I knew cloud, my same knowledge were getting used. Okay, fine. Now the second question, does the programming experience matter here? Now there are two thoughts here. The few will say yes, it matters, but the fact is it doesn't matter. Why it doesn't matter, I will explain you. When you are starting with the cloud, you are learning about the basic of cloud first, like what is cloud, how many types of clouds are there, cloud computing. You will be getting yourself familiar with the cloud like AWS. You will be getting familiar with how to use their console, basically their website. I will get into that part also. At that time, your programming knowledge is not required at all. But you might require, which is I think everyone knows, that when you are learning cloud at that time, if I'm saying that there was a React.js project which you have to deploy on the cloud. I hope you know what is React.js project or front-end project or what is deployment, and you want to deploy it on cloud. So these are the small terminology you should be aware of. Now what are the skills while with programming? What are the skills you require? So Git or GitHub skills required, but if you doesn't know right now, it's fine. As you start learning cloud, on the go you can learn about GitHub as required. Same with the Linux command, because you will be working a lot with the terminal, you require the knowledge of Linux command. But I won't suggest you that first you need to finish Git and Linux command and then get on the cloud. No, you don't need to do that. What you can do is you can start with learning cloud, and in parallel you can start learning these. Now how you can start learning Git or Linux command, I will also explain you that when in the resources section. Okay, so now let's start making how to start with cloud part. So the first thing is, you have no coding, you have some coding experience, you are expert in coding, all three things are fine. You can start with the cloud. Okay, the next thing is, the first thing you should be deciding is between AWS, Azure and GCP. This is the first thing you should know. Rest of the things what I'm gonna tell you, they are relevant for all three. So you can decide whichever you want to pick. Now, once you are decided with that, the first thing you should know is basics, not the basics, but what is cloud, why we need cloud, features of cloud, type of cloud computing. Now this is the theory part, but it is very important. Now why it is important? It is important because if you are planning to start with cloud, you should be aware of what is cloud, why every company is moving towards cloud, what are the features of cloud which actually make it very special and very important, how many different type of clouds are there, what is cloud computing. These are the theory part which you should be aware of, and this is from where you will start your cloud journey. So now once you are done with that, now the next step would be, you need to get yourself comfortable with the console. Now what is console? So here I am talking from the AWS perspective. For Azure and GCP, I am not sure what they call that website. They call it console or something else, but it is same. So when you create your account, okay, before this, create your cloud account. So when I'm saying cloud, I will say AWS now. So first you need to create your AWS account. Unless and until you don't have your AWS account, you cannot move ahead. Now the next thing what you need to do is, once you log into your AWS account, we call it console. So if you will see, it is aws.console. This is what it is. Now when you log into the console, I will give you a demo also. You should be comfortable with it. Now when you log in, you will see there are so many services are there. Then you will feel overwhelmed. Don't worry. What you need to do is, you need to go one service by one. Now there are around 200 plus services. How many services there are? 200 plus. And you cannot learn all the 200 plus. So there are only few important one which you should know, and then after some experience you can pick, or on demand you can learn the rest of the services. I will explain you which services you need to understand, so don't worry. Now once you have created your account, you need to log into your AWS console, and then you need to just go through a high level, go through the services high level only, not like don't need to go in detail. And once that is done, the first service you should be aware of, IAM. Now what is IAM? It is Identity Access Management. This is the most important service in cloud. With IAM, you will learn that how anyone in your account, in your cloud, in your project is going to have access. So you can see Identity Access Management. This is very, very important. So you should get yourself familiar with this. Once you are done with this, the hands-on are very important. Remember, this is the theory part. This section is theory. Now from here we are starting the hands-on part. So create your cloud account, log in, go through the service. You are just playing around with the website. And then you will start with IAM service, where you will first start with the theory, and then you need to also do your hands-on. So now your theory plus hands-on will go hand in hand, and you need to balance it out. Now how I was doing, I used to first finish the theory part, and then I used to go to the hands-on. So that's, you also need to see that how you are doing. And with that, you also need to understand billing and alert. Now what is billing and alert? This is another service. Remember, cloud is an expensive place also if you don't know how to manage it. The good thing is, if you are creating your account for first time, for a year you will get few services for free. But you need to be very careful whenever you are playing in AWS or cloud. The moment your practice is done, delete all the resources. Now what are resources? Basically, if I started a EC2 instance, if I started a Lambda function, these are basically, we call it as resources. So the moment your practice is done, delete them, deactivate them, terminate them. Otherwise your billing will keep coming. Now once you get into IAM, after that or before that also, understand billing and alert. In the billing section, what you need to do is, you need to set the limit of your account, so that you won't be getting you will not be getting charged for the resources which you forgot to terminate. And alert is basically, you will start getting alert. You will get into the billing and alert later on also, but when you are starting, I would highly recommend start with the billing and alert, to set the billing limit and set the alert that whenever that limit is passing, you will get the notification. So please do that. So, and these are the things very important. Now why these are important? Because when you will get hired as a cloud developer engineer, these are the things you need to do. You need to provide the access to your teammates, or in your project or in your company. Plus you also need to keep an eye on the billing part also. You don't want that you join and the whole bill of the organization is going rooftop. So that's why it is important. Okay, so once this is done, so this is your theory plus hands-on part. Now what's the next part? So the next part is again gonna be very heavy with the theory and your hands-on. Now we will start with the servicing part. We already done IAM, billing and alert, but now there are more. So the first thing is, okay, not S3, storage. So storage is there. Then you have compute. I will talk about these storage, compute, if these are the first time you are hearing about these words. Storage, compute. Then you have lambda. I'm also remembering what else there. You have VPC, you have logging and monitoring. Okay, now let's talk about these. So whenever you are gonna start with any cloud, there are lot of services. As I told you, there are 200 plus, and every year there are more and more coming, but there are few which are non-negotiable. It doesn't matter which domain you are gonna pick within the cloud, these are few you should be aware of. They are non-negotiable. So those are storage, compute, lambda, VPC, logging and monitoring. Apart from that, there are other also, but as you start getting into these, those will also start coming. Like I didn't mention about cloud formation here, I didn't mention about elastic beanstalk, but when you start learning these, they will also start coming in as a subtopic, so you will start learning. Now let's start with the storage. As the storage says, and as a front-end developer, I can say that these would be like overwhelming for you. You would be like, what is this storage, what is this compute? I can understand, because I was also one of that person who was not aware of what are these, and there are so many things I didn't mention right now, but we will go one by one. So now what you will do is, once your IAM and billing and alert is done, I would suggest you start with the storage. Now in S3 you have in AWS you have S3, and what you should be doing is, the first you need to do the theory part, that what is storage. In that you will get S3, what is the use of S3, and the most important question you should be doing is what, why and use cases, first thing. Then it's a global or region based. Then you need to also paid or free or any limit. Now what are these? So the way I learned is, whenever I look at a service, these are my 3 parameters in which I start learning that what is S3, why we are using it, what could be the use cases in real time where I will be using S3. Is this service global or it is just region specific? Is it paid or is it free, or is there any limit? Now these things are very important, because when you become a cloud engineer, you need to also decide that which service you are gonna use on the basis of this, that is it fitting in your use case or not, is it gonna be expensive, it is gonna be a free, how is there any limit, that how much you can use, how much you can not use. So these are the 3 parameters on which you can start understanding about your services, and the same will implement all of this. Once you will start understanding services like this, it will make your life very easy. Now let's talk about this part, storage S3 part. So when I started it, I started with the theory part. For me, S3 was the most simplest thing to relate and do hands-on. The reason is because S3 is used for hosting the static websites, images or content. So what I did is, I did a lot of my own front-end projects. I started hosting on S3. When I started doing that, in addition to that, as I told you, there would be subtopics will start coming. Then what I did, once I got comfortable with doing deployment on S3, is now how can I link my domain with my this S3. So I learn about Route 53, which is our domain service through AWS. Then I also learn about CloudFront, which is the caching service through AWS. So once you start getting into theory and hands-on part, you will start learning more subtopics which will help you a lot to understand. My only advice to you folks is, always think about the use case. I am again giving my example. When I started cloud, for me it was very, very hard or very challenging to understand or relate with the cloud. The reason is because a UI person, as a front-end person, for me thinking about the use cases was very hard. So what I started doing is I will take it back. As a front-end developer or as a UI person, it was very challenging, because when I used to hear about like CloudFront or EC2 or load balancer, these are the things for me as a UI person were very hard to relate to. So for me, it was a challenge to forget the front end and think about what is going behind the scenes. And these use cases were actually helping me out. So I still make my own use cases and think about that how all the AWS services I am learning, or all the cloud learning I have, how I can implement those here. And then it actually helped me to remember, because I have a use case, I have done a hands-on to relate everything and remember. I still remember a lot of things because I did the hands-on. So please think about the use cases. Now if you doesn't know any use cases, it's fine. You can Google, you can look what other people are doing, and through that you can do. So storage is done. With that, I told you you will learn subtopics. Then you will reach to the compute. Again, please use these three what, why use cases: global, region, paid, free, or any limit. So basically this is about EC2. Whenever you have dynamic applications, like in that you will be using EC2, like Node.js application, you want a separate server to keep running, EC2 will come there. Now with EC2, or you will also learn about load balancers. There are different type of load balancers. I will put a star on this because I want to talk a little bit more here. And then you will also get into the world of IPs. Then you need to learn. So here all networking will come here. So networking, and actually VPC you can also put here. So this will also come here. Now when again use case, Node.js application. You are a front-end developer, you want to host a Node.js application, you will be using EC2. I'm not saying that this is the only way of doing it. There are other ways also in cloud to do that. But right now, because you want to learn a service, you need to think about the use cases. And when you start doing it, you will start remembering. So start with these three things, and then the subtopics will come. And also remember to clean your resources. That is very important. That's why I mentioned it in billing and alert, to keep an eye, because EC2, if you forget to terminate and delete it, your billing will go, like you will end up with a huge bill. So please take care of that. Okay, so then you can move to database. I think every front-end developer, though they don't have much experience in the backend, they are aware of databases. So you can use the same knowledge here. Then you have Lambda, logging, monitoring is very important. As a UI person, we don't bother about logging and monitoring, but when you are learning cloud, this is very, very, very important. So this will come. Now once you are done with this part, so if you will see, you are done with these services. As I told you, there are subtopics. So lot of services you will learn when you are going through a topic. So it would be for you, you will realize that how far you are reaching. Now few things also I want to talk about is automation. Now what is automation? Basically, instead of we are doing all the manual resources allocation, there are services in AWS which will help you to get your environment set up ASAP. So we have Elastic Beanstalk, we have CloudFormation, we have AWS Amplify. There are a lot of other services also. Now why I'm mentioning it? The reason I'm mentioning it, that if you have done all these services which I told you till logging and monitoring, these services will be piece of cake for you, because now you already know that which service to use when. These things are gonna help you in saving your manual steps. So for you, it would be very, very easy. Okay. So once you are done with this part, you will be pretty good, at a very good level, to be honest. Now let's talk about the next part. That what is the next part? Not the next part, but there are few things you should be aware of, and you should 100% you should do hands-on. The first thing is to use cloud, there is CLI. Through CLI you can use on your system. You can use console, basically their website. And the last one is SDK. So if you are creating a project on your local, you can use your cloud, you can connect your cloud services to your account, to your project, to your code. So you will be using SDK. So you should know CLI, console, and SDK. So you should be aware of all these three ways how to use it. Now, good part here is the documentation has everything. So it's not like that you have to learn something, but when you are doing hands-on, like if you want to create a EC2 through console, you will do it. Then you will learn through how to create a EC2 through CLI, and then not EC2, but if you want to submit a data on your S3, then you will be using a SDK for that. So you should know how to use AWS services or cloud services through CLI, console, SDK. This is non-negotiable. You should know about this. Okay. Now let's talk about the resource. Before going to resources, let's talk about the resources. I think resources is the best time now to talk. Now, how I did, how much time I took, what are the resources I have used. So I used a book for offline reading. I use official documentation, and I use Udemy course, and I use YouTube. Now let's talk one by one of everything. Book. It is not mandatory that you should have a book, but in my case, because I was working also, so I was having what I wanted, that in between of my work, at my commute time, I should have a offline learning with me. So I started with a book. I don't even remember the book author. What I did is, my company has given me O'Reilly subscription. I went there and I searched for Introduction to Cloud or the Cloud Foundation certificate, and I just followed that book. That's it. So you can, if you are a person who would like to read, they can go and search any book and read the review and go ahead with that. Official documentation, whenever it is required, I went there. But Udemy course by Stephen was the best. So Stephen has the courses, a lot of AWS courses. You can look for Azure and GCP also. And I started with foundation. Now I am going with the architect one. So I have the course of that, and I used to follow that. Now, why YouTube? So as I told you, load balancer, I put asterisk here. So load balancers, caching, database designing, these are the few concepts which come as a cloud engineer in front of you. So I wanted to know more about that. So what I used to do is, I used to go on YouTube and search for this, that explain what is load balancer, how to use load balancer, how many types of load balancers are there. So this is how I used to use YouTube. For me, actually, these four combinations work beautifully. So wherever the gap was, I used to go to YouTube and I used to search and I used to watch the video. Now, the last but non-negotiable, mock. If you are going for certification, mock exam. Please, if you are going for certification, give mock exam. It's very, very important. Otherwise, if you are doing hands-on, then it's okay. Okay. Now, let's talk about the timing. What I did is, I spent 2 months from ground zero. Like, I was like zero, doesn't know what is cloud, how to use cloud. I was having no idea. So I started from zero and I gave my AWS cloud foundation exam in 2 months, and I passed it. And I felt very confident because I did 2 or 3 projects on AWS also of my side project. I hosted my own website. I did the Route 15. I did the Node.js application hosting. I did few different projects on AWS to get, comfortable with AWS and their services. If you are someone who is thinking that you will just go and, you will rectification of everything, it is not gonna help, because 200 plus service, it's very, very hard. Very hard. These services which right now I'm highlighting, these are very important, and you can only remember if you are going like use cases, global region and all that. So yeah, now the last part, certification part. Does certification matter? I would say yes, it does matter, because certification, like in my case, from front end I'm trying to move towards the cloud part. So these certification help me to gain the confidence of my team, my manager, or if I'm giving interview of my future company, that see, I'm investing on my own on skills, and I have these certificates which I have and I'm preparing for, which can at least give me some extra points that she is serious about this thing. So first thing. Second thing is, a lot of companies which work with different clients, for them also, if their engineers are having these certificates, it will help them to get more confidence and more projects. So again, if you are in a service based company, these certifications are gonna give you a lot of edge in your organization, and you can get extra hike, promotion, and all that. Why I did certification? Because if you will see right now, what I am able to tell you in this video, there was no video such like that. So there was no structural learning of cloud. So for me, after spending a lot of time on googling and talking to different people to understand how I can start, because I am a front end developer, for me cloud and backend was a black box, and I'm a very picky learner, to be honest. So for me it was a very challenging thing. So what I did was that to have a structured learning and to know where I'm standing with my skill set, I started with the certification, that let me start with the cloud foundation. So if I cleared the cloud foundation exam, it means that I am good. Now I can go to the next level, and that's what I am doing, and it is working for me. And second thing is, for cloud foundation, you will get the whole content, a structure content you have to follow to sit for that exam. So again, I got the structure content. Otherwise you will be lost, because again, there are more than 200 services there. Now I want to also share one thing. I have this website cloudtips.dev. In this, I have actually few blogs written by me based on my knowledge. If you will see, things I wish I knew when I started learning cloud, what is region, availability zone. So whatever the basics theory part you require, you have everything I have written here. So I'm not forcing, but whenever you need it, you can go and read here also. And the most important thing I want to highlight here is the project part. So I have few projects written here, like mapping custom domain to S3 bucket, how to enable cross-region replication on S3, enable server logs for your website, enable versioning. So I have made few projects also, like host a static website on S3. So if you want, you can come here and look for how to do all these things and get the idea of the projects for you. And you can see that I have also mentioned a table: prerequisite access to AWS console, website code, level is beginner, AWS service use S3, programming knowledge not required. You have this code available here and you can use it. Okay, so I just wanted to share this website with you. I will be continuing writing more blog on this. Also, I wanted to show you, I don't know, my internet is working pretty slow, so I have digital notes here also. These are the digital notes of the different cloud topics. You can check that also. Yeah, so overall, this is how you can start with the cloud. I know, it's a pretty long, and I agree, cloud is very vast. So you have to start with the theory first, then you have to go towards the hands-on, and then you will go to the services. Have the balance of theory and hands-on. The most important thing is, if you will not do the hands-on, cloud knowledge is not gonna help work for you. So please do hands-on, think about the projects, create your own, as I am doing. And if you want, then you can go for certification. If no, it's absolutely fine. Okay, thank you so much for asking me this wonderful question. If you have any follow-up question, please feel free to drop in the comment. I would be happy to answer that. I hope this will help you. I was supposed to give my architect exam I think in December, but there was some technical issue happened, so my exam is in next 2 to 3 months. So you might see a lot of content coming from my end on cloud, because I'm preparing for it. Okay, thank you so much. Take care. Bye.